Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our Patriot Call tonight. I am Sharona. You all know that. And we're having a very intimate setting this evening because a lot of our friends who would normally be joining us are watching the live stream debate right now. It's not really a debate, it's really a ask a question, and then everybody basically repeats mostly the same answer as they go down the line. I haven't heard anything really that shakes my boots just yet from those who are running for Colorado State GOP chair. But I want to start out just really quickly. We're going to bring our guest in right away. But I want to start out just reminding you guys about the sequence of events that has happened over the last few weeks. And because we are going to come back to this after we're done with our interview tonight, and done from hearing from a Coloradan who has been in the thick of it and has had to deal with the unbelievable policies that should have initiated the rise of great leaders in Colorado. But, a lot of us have been chased out of the state, and those that remain are creating more and more trauma for the state. So I don't know what to do with that. Obviously, we just had state assembly. It was a disaster. Britta Horn has ensured in her last actions before leaving that office that she's going to continue to take money from the Colorado State donors, the GOP donors. I can't even believe this story, but we're going to talk about it tonight. And then I'm going to be reporting on some real-time information that just broke today, and I don't think anybody really knows anything about it yet. And I'm going to be sharing with you all exactly what is going down in the state of Colorado in association with the RNCC. And if that sounds familiar, that's Mike Johnson's organization, Speaker of the House for Congress. Yeah, that one, that one, that one. And his little minions in Colorado who are happy to do his bidding. I don't know what the exchange is yet, but we're going to talk more about that later because I, for one, actually want to see the Republican Party be established. I'm not looking to tear things down and burn things to the ground and invite all the unaffiliated in the whole world to vote in our primaries. I'm not about that. So we're going to get to that the second half of our time together tonight. But I want to start with two facts, two major reality checks right now. Number one, we do not need a savior beyond Jesus Christ, okay? We already have a savior. I need to ask all of you to stop looking around for one man or one woman to fix everything for you so you can get back to your life before COVID, because I don't know if you guys realize yet. I'm in full-fledged reality check for myself right now. We're never going back. We're never going back. And yet that mentality of seeking out a savior, seeking out one person to save everything for you, is creeping back in a massive way in the state of Colorado. And of course, we see examples of that all over the country. My guest tonight, when things got really, really hard, decided to take initiative. When the government came for her business in COVID, she took initiative. She stood up on her own independently, didn't need to go to someone else. She stood up for her own self and made amazing things happen. Then she ran for city council in Aurora and led this incredible effort to expose the cartel and the gang activity that was going on in Aurora. You guys will remember that Tom Holman specifically said, "We are coming to save you guys." President Trump tweeted about Aurora repeatedly. That is because of the work of Danielle Jurinsky. And not only that, not only did she go through all of that, then there was an election. She's going to share a little bit about what has happened since the national exposure of the city of Aurora and exactly what was going on there. The lies that were being told by the Attorney General Phil Weiser and Jared Polis and the Democrat Party at large, which is just so unfortunate and sad, to allow for cartels to take over Aurora and other parts of our state, by the way, too, of Colorado. I'm from the Western Slope, and it's heavily infiltrated with illegal activity and gang activity. It's horrendous. And yet the people running the state of Colorado are turning a blind eye. Well, Danielle Jurinsky did not need permission to do what was right. She did not need permission to defend her own community. And I think that there's been maybe that you've paid a price, Danielle, in some ways for being so so really powerful about what was happening in Colorado and what was happening in Aurora. And I guess I wonder, do you think that price was too high, or where are you at with all the efforts that you made to protect your community, Aurora, Colorado?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me on, and hello to all the fellow patriots out there. You know, I definitely paid a price. I lost my bid for reelection, but that was because I had everybody against me. I had Kyle Clark, I had Jared Polis, I had Phil Weiser, I had Hickenlooper. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Down the line against me, saying that this was just a lie and these were peaceful migrants, and there was no gang activity. This was I mean, Jared Polis literally said this was a feature of my imagination, and called the police on me, by the way. It's so I definitely paid a price. Would I go back and do anything different? No, I wouldn't, because I know for a fact that I saved people's lives by moving them out of these apartment complexes. And I can sleep at night knowing that, and knowing that I told the truth. Um, and for the most part, it put them on the run, at least out of Aurora, Colorado. Nationwide, there's still obviously a very big problem, and ICE is doing, the work that they're doing. But it shed such a light that it put them on the run out of Aurora, which is ultimately what I was hoping to accomplish.
I have kind of wondered your other council members said, and Mike Kaufman, the mayor of Aurora, like, did they ever say thank you, or were they worried about it? Were they afraid that there was going to be retaliation? What was their response when you really became the national whistleblower? People didn't realize that the cartels were taking over our communities. I think Chicago, they were like, well, that's Chicago, but you definitely wouldn't think in a Midwest town, a Midwestern state like Colorado, that we would be dealing with, Mexican cartels in our little
Right.
community. So what did your peers say when all this was happening?
Well, some of them were very supportive, and stood with me, but the limelight was obviously on me. So, it's not like they could really say anything publicly, or, I mean, the limelight was solely on me. Mike Kaufman stood with me at first, and he did interviews, talking about how they were taking over apartment complexes. And then all of a sudden he did an about face, and he, became very concerned about our image and what it was doing to our image, and, maybe scaring businesses away and scaring people in the community. And so then I even had to, stand against him. For some time, unfortunately. But like I said, I can sleep with myself at night knowing that I did the right thing, and I don't know of any other politician, serving on city council, nonetheless, that would grab a gun and go into a Tren de Aragua gang infested apartment complex and start moving people out. I mean, I don't think that's ever happened in history.
Yeah.
And I would do it time and time again if I had to protect Americans.
And this isn't, just so people know, I mean, you've served our country. You are military. And can you tell us a little bit about that too? Like, what was your life before Aurora?
So, well, I've been in Aurora my entire life. I was actually born at a hospital in Aurora. But I did do 9 years in the military. I did 6 years security forces, so military police, and then 3 years munitions, essentially building bombs. And then I've been an entrepreneur. I've owned multiple businesses, a real estate business, multiple bars and restaurants, um, different types of businesses. And that's what got me into politics, was during COVID, when Jared Polis shut down all of my businesses. I was at home with a newborn, and I was beside myself. I couldn't believe it. But so many stores were allowed to stay open, but heaven forbid you walk into a bar or a restaurant. I mean, you were basically told you were just going to die. And, it just was so unbelievable to me. And that's kind of what threw me into politics.
It's kind of that way, isn't it? This is the conversation we always have is like people say, politics is so gross. And what they mean by that is we were talking before we got on, there's all this arguing and fighting, and, people say horrendous things, and it just gets really, really brutal. And we've
Right.
watched that happen on a national scale, and of course in Colorado. But
Right.
it's the policies that we're worried about, and the foundation, that the policies are being derived from. What do these people stand for? And in Colorado, Did your business, when Jared Polis, he tried to tell the rest of the country that he was the most lax governor in the whole country, and he just did amazing things for the people of Colorado. But I distinctly remember seeing fathers being arrested, businesses that had been around for 70 years closed forever, watching kids try to breathe through masks under the advisement of Jared Polis. He tried to pass that off to CDPHE and all these other people. And really, it was him, it was his policy. And your business, the bar and restaurant scene, Denver completely changed after COVID. All the businesses that were just completely decimated. What happened with your businesses and the policies that Polis implemented during COVID? What happened to you guys?
Yeah, well,
Did you
actually,
survive it?
I was threatened with arrest as well because I refused to enforce the mask rule. I refused to enforce the 6 foot distancing. We're all grown adults. I had the signs that I was supposed to have on the front door, the back door, the bathroom doors. Everybody
All
can
the
can
things.
read. Yeah, I mean, we're all adults, and so um, and I decided to mostly stay open. And I paid a fine. I was threatened with arrest. Um, it was absolutely absurd. I had 4 locations at that time, but I did pull all 4 of my locations through COVID. But I mean, it was just the way that it was handled was so poorly. And you look back now, and nobody's even talking about it. Nobody's talking about the vaccine. Nobody's talking about, I mean, it's just, it was so poorly handled. But liquor stores were allowed to stay open, and pot shops were allowed to stay open. And I mean,
Yeah.
so many stores were allowed to stay open. But what happened to bars and restaurants is just absolutely disgusting. And
And
here I was.
churches,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
churches, don't
An
forget.
attack on religion. Yeah. An attack on religion. Yeah. Gyms, something that people do to be healthy. Gyms were shut down. It was so unbelievable to me. And so I stood up and I fought back on that.
So you mentioned that Jared Polis called the police on you. You're talking about the just go along, get along, cowboy hat, blue shoe wearing, just, libertarian businessman called the police on you. What
He
was that
called the
about?
he called the police on me. I had announced publicly, I was releasing videos. I was going in with a body camera, and I was sneaking through windows and all kinds of stuff. I couldn't stay away from this apartment complex and trying to help these people and save these people. And I made a public statement one night that I would really like him to call me and meet with me, that I had a video that I wanted to show him. And he called the police on me, Colorado State Patrol, saying that I was withholding evidence from an active investigation. And what was funny was, so I get a call from the Aurora Police Department asking me what was going on, what video I had, what evidence I had. So I played the video, and then I released the video live. And the police, the Aurora police, are in the video. They're listening to the same stuff that I am, but they were being directed to not do anything about this. So I issued a statement back to Jared Polis, and I said, "You called the police on me. I asked to speak with you. Who am I supposed to call? Who are people supposed to call for help when the police are in this video? The police are being
That
instructed to do nothing."
So what was the fallout with that? Because is that when Holman gets involved? Like, how did that all transpire? So obviously the videos were going completely viral, but if
Right.
the police are involved in the stand down order and they will not do their job, what did you do from there? I don't think I realized this last time that we spoke, that the
Yeah.
police were told to stand down.
Oh, yeah. The police chief, the acting police chief at that time, and thank goodness she's no longer with the city. she was doing interviews, saying that there's no issues, everything's fine, there's no gang activity, we're unaware of anything going on in these apartment complex. I mean, it was me against the world, literally. And some other independent journalists started coming out and talking to people, and I mean, we all know how viral this went. And then all of a sudden, I started getting phone calls that Tom Homan was coming out and wanted to meet with me, and Chip Roy was coming from Texas, and we were going to have this meeting. And then I got a phone call that President Trump wants to come out and have a rally, and he wants me to speak at his rally, and that he would like to meet with me. And I mean, it went bigger than I could have ever imagined. And it's sad, really,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it had to get so big for the truth to really start coming out, for the city to shut this apartment complex down, for anybody to do anything or listen to me. It's really sad that it had to go as big as it did.
Were you worried for your own life? I mean, you've got the cartel, and the mayor, by the way, usually is the one who directs the police chief. So I'd be interested to know what that conversation was and how that all worked out. That's interesting to me. Very strange to think they would be told to stand down like that. When Mike Hoffman, just so you all, full disclosure, I emailed and called his office, and he sent me what he wanted me to put out to the public. He was nervous and sent me to put this out to the public, get this out there, just so you know. So, this must have been before he was threatened, or I don't know, but some business, maybe one of his biggest donors whose business he was afraid was gonna get hurt by this being national news. Who knows? Who knows? But when he was still wanting to protect the people of Aurora over other interests, he was, sending this out to us quietly to
Yeah.
help cover it. So, what did you ever feel like your life was in danger during this time? Because this was like the last year, Danielle, the
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah. Well, it started, uh, for me, it started about April, May of 2024. Um, and then, yeah, it just spiraled from there and kept getting worse and worse. And then the viral video footage was finally the nail in the coffin that came out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was getting plenty of death threats, the nastiest emails you could imagine, calling me every name in the book. I was leaving the movie theater one night with my son, just he and I, and thought nothing of it. And all of a sudden, outside in the parking lot, a group of Hispanic looking folks started chanting Venezuela at me. And, Tren de Aragua is out of Venezuela. They started chanting Venezuela at me, and I just grabbed my son, put him behind me, and was staring at these people. So I had a couple scary moments, plenty of death threats. You know, I went through it, that's for sure. I went through it. And then, when President Trump announced he was coming to Aurora, and this was named Operation Aurora, you could imagine every liberal's head exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, they came for me. They absolutely came for me with pitchforks.
You're a mom, you've served your country, military, business owner, you're serving your community, you're trying to do the right thing by the most vulnerable, by the way. We understand this, having, I've only just recently moved to Texas in the last couple of years, but for you, you grew up there in Colorado. I lived in Colorado up until then. And what I witnessed and what you saw is that people who are there illegally, they are the most vulnerable. They are the most trafficked for labor. They are the most violated because they don't understand the laws, and they live in the shadows because they don't understand what a sanctuary state is. They are easily controlled. They are easily victimized because they're not here lawfully. So they don't know to take the lawful actions to protect themselves. And so here you are, literally out there trying to save the most vulnerable in your community. And you're rewarded with just I mean, it was brutal. And not to, and to top it off, you're a mom. You've got this little boy, this child that's looking up to you and needing you to protect and care for him too.
Mhm.
And you're going through all of this.
Right.
When you ran again for city council, did you really want to do it again, or were you ready to you did your job, ready to move on?
For me, I find it to be a necessary evil. It's that saying, if not me, then who? And I've been asked to run for every seat
Yeah.
you can imagine in this state. I've been asked to run for so many things, but my heart truly is in Aurora, and I'm still fighting for Aurora. I don't have to be on the city council to have a voice and to stand up and to use my social media platforms. Um, I'm still fighting for Aurora. So, uh, you know, uh, I have mixed emotions, mixed feelings about not winning my reelection. Obviously, it took a huge load off of my plate. I was fighting so hard day in and day out. But if not me, then who? And I was replaced by basically a socialist. I can't even call them Democrats. Basically a socialist. So I will fight on. I will fight on, and I will continue to expose everything and anything that I can.
And you are, and I want people to know because again, I think the motto for tonight is, John Wayne is dead. The cavalry's not coming. You are the solution that you're looking for. That's what you've proven out. You had a calling. You saw there needed to be something done. You did it, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we need so bad is for individuals to really look inward instead of looking out to find someone else who can do what's being asked of them to do. And so you're not done. I'm following your social media, and I noticed that you were talking about the Colorado Department of Public, or the Department of Human Services, rather, and the fraud that's going on there. Can you talk a little bit about what what is that? What is going on that you've heard? And you were saying you're providing yourself as an outlet for people to reach out to. Tell me a little bit more about that. I want people to hear because Colorado, basically all the departments are very corrupt in Colorado.
Right.
We know that even the Colorado Supreme Court, every single one of them, bribed and blackmailed by Mindy Macias, and that was never rectified. I so tell me what you're talking about. What is going on with human services in
Right.
Colorado?
Well, I had my own battle with Department of Human Services, and many people may remember. Some may have never heard of it. But when I first took office, I went after the police chief that was there at the time. She was out kneeling with people holding signs saying "defund the police," and I just she wasn't enforcing any laws. Crime was running rampant. So I went after her. I didn't realize she had a girlfriend who worked for Arapahoe County DHS. They came after me. She filed a false allegation against me for abuse against, at that time, my then 2-year-old son.
That's what they
Um,
always do. That's what they always
yep.
do.
And
Yeah.
so I was put through the ringer with DHS and had to fight to prove my innocence, because you are guilty until you can prove your innocence in DHS. And pretty much since my case and that woman ended up going to prison. Since my case and lawsuit, there's been so many cases that have come forward. So many people have come forward. Um, Hopefully feeling empowered after they saw my case and my situation. And I mean, the state has had to pay out millions and millions of dollars in false claims, in mismanagement, mishandling of cases in Colorado DHS across the country. This isn't isolated, but specifically in Colorado, They're paying out millions. The state is paying out millions, and it's just unbelievable, the fraud, how easy it is to make a false anonymous allegation against somebody. And like I said, you are guilty in that system until you can prove your innocence.
Wow. That is incredible. That is incredible. So with the Department of Human Services, what's kind of been, has there been stories that have been brought to the forefront that are being rectified right now? Or is
Oh
this,
yeah.
there's a lot of things that are pending that you're aware of?
There's more social workers and caseworkers that have gone to prison after the one that I put in prison. There have been so many cases filed. There have been so many people fired. I mean, it really blew the lid. The situation with me really blew the lid off of exposing DHS and statewide. Like I said, this is a nationwide problem, but
So are we,
statewide, I mean,
just so that I make sure I understand, I'm sorry, Danielle, to cut you off, but we're talking about, are you talking about Child Protective Services within DHS?
some people call it, it depends. Some
Yeah,
jurisdictions call it DPS, Child Protective Services, and some call it DHS, Department of Human Services. So
that is,
it's
yeah.
both.
Okay.
It's one and the
Hmm.
same. Um, but yeah, this is a big thing, and there's so many stories and so many articles, and that's what you saw me post the other day, coming out specifically about what's going on in Colorado with all of the fraudulent allegations and what people are having to go through, and the state's paying out millions.
Let's say I did not know. So right now, just so you know, like there's a huge active push in DC right now to abolish the funding that is flowing into the states to support the CPS. I mean, they call it CPS, but you're right. I mean, or DHS, however they're going to say it, but it's specifically focused on CPS workers who are illegally taking children, who are responding to false allegations and not doing the job to research it. Also, law enforcement agencies or judicial districts that are not going through proper investigations before taking people's kids. And so I'm just getting with the party right now because I did not realize that there was such a an exposure happening in Colorado over the CPS system. We have introduced a phone number for parents to support them through Moms for America, because we're working directly with DC right now on legislation to protect families across this country from this exact thing you're talking about. And that number has been put up everywhere to help support parents so they have a way. I had no idea you were doing this. So now look at this. We have, of course, it had to come from a mom too, had to come from you. It had to be a mom that understands what it's like to have the risk of their child being taken from them for
Mhm.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
There's so much happening in that realm in Colorado. So many nefarious things that are going on with our kids in Colorado. So those who are so a great example then of someone who could reach out to you tonight. What would that be?
you know anybody being affected by DHS, CPS. There's not much I can do as an individual anymore. Obviously I sued that individual for defamation. But
So awesome.
what I would tell people to do is stand up. They're really powerless. If you say no,
Yeah.
no, you're not coming into my home. If you don't answer their calls, I mean, it's you've
Stop
got to.
just like surrendering to them. Just
Yeah.
stop.
And it's
Like
so
stop doing it.
scary. It's so scary because it's the thought of losing your child. And I actually voluntarily surrendered my son to my parents
Yeah.
because I felt like, the walls were getting ready to close in on me. I mean, this woman did a really good
Oh,
job with her
please.
false allegations. She knew exactly what to say working within the department. She knew exactly what to say to put me
Oh,
through the ringer. So, but I would say, looking back and helping all the people that I've helped and hearing all the stories and knowing what I went through, they have as much power as you give them. Tell them no, no. I'm not, you're not coming into my home. You're not, I'm not, don't answer your phone. I mean, force them to get a court order,
Yes.
force them to take it to court, because without that, they actually have no power. They have the power that you allow them. But people get so scared. You get a call saying you're being put under investigation for X, Y, and Z, against your child. And it's, I mean, your heart just
Oh, I can't imagine.
sinks. And so you just do anything and everything that they say. And like I say, looking back on it, say no. Say no. And I think to myself, especially with the allegations that were against me, then demand that the police investigate it. Demand that a police officer investigate it, not a caseworker, not a social worker. I mean, if you think that I'm truly doing this, that, and the other, everything under the sun to my child, then I want the police to investigate it.
It is this idea that we have what we believe we have. And that's what I think that's what's been so incredible to watch you. You are authentic for sure. You know your rights. You've exercised them throughout your whole life. You've fought for this country. You know exactly where your authority stands. And that's what I want for people in Colorado. I want them to recognize their own personal authority, stop giving it away to other people, to other entities, and stop just submitting to an out of control government that does not have good in mind for you. They don't have anything good in mind for you. And knowing that this happened too when you first entered into office, just retaliation for exposing crimes that were actually going on, things that were hurting the most vulnerable in our communities. I mean, the Democrats don't talk about that. They create these scenarios of victimization of humans, and then we have to be the bad guys to try to clean that stuff up. But I know you have mom duties to tend to. But I want to thank you just for coming on and sharing more of your story and what you're doing now. I really hope that we will see you again because you have a backbone. And Danielle, people right now, and it's not, and you're not raging, you're not vengeful, you're not crazy. You're just a strong, confident woman who knows exactly what her rights are, and you've already been through the battle, and you know what's important, and you know what's not. And I just really see you being able. You're not seeking power. You're not seeking to control anybody. You just want to help people find their own power and step into it and take ownership of this authority and this incredible opportunity we have to live free. So I am just so appreciative of you, and I really appreciate you coming on tonight. And people need to hear more from you for sure.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Give your give your baby a hug for me. I love those
I
little,
sure will.
they're so precious. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you.
So right now, as we've been talking with Danielle Jurinsky, and again, if you have not followed her story and you don't know everything that went on with her, just type in Aurora and Trendiagua or Aurora cartels. And, she only sat there for like a second, but Danielle Jurinsky, as a city councilwoman, was literally going in armed to help protect and defend these people who were living in those apartments, who were being blackmailed, who were being, I can't think of the word right now, basically in exchange to live there, they had to pay more money on top of their rent to these cartel members. Extorted, thank you. They were being extorted. It's just the most incredible story. And here she is still going to stay put and fight for Aurora. I have a lot of respect for that for sure. And so tonight, what's been going on is yeah, the events that have been going on tonight, the chair debate for the next GOP chair for the state of Colorado. I just want to remind everybody kind of how seriously important this actually is. This person is going to be an automatic member of the RNC, the Republican National Committee at Large, the national arm of that. And then by association as well, will have access to the highest office in the country, to President Trump. And I think it really begs consideration when you are going to vote for somebody, their character, their integrity, their history. I think it's really, really important to be paying attention to those things and not just get off on somebody saying the words that you want to hear and thinking they are the ones that are going to save me. This is so great. That's not what we're supposed to be looking for. Leadership is one thing, a savior is an entirely different thing. And there's few that possess the type of leadership that we need right now in the state of Colorado, that is for certain. But Danielle Jurinsky certainly does possess that and has proven that she's willing to do what it takes to defend freedom and protect people's liberties. She's really a marvel. So, a couple of things. I'm going to bring it back to, we've got just a few more minutes together tonight. I want to bring it back to the call that I received from Republican National Committee lady, chairwoman, whatever, Republican National Committee chair for Colorado, Christy Fedora. And Christy and I, interestingly enough, we were friends. We were friends until I worked on Ron Hank's campaign and she was supporting Stephen Varela. And initially, we had a great text exchange. And I said, "Hey, just want you to know, listen, I know you support Stephen. I'm going to be working to get Ron across the finish line. I think he's the one, and I don't want it to affect our relationship." And she said, "No problem. I respect that. So great." But that's not what she actually meant. And it wasn't much longer after that that things just went completely sideways. And we were able to prove that Stephen Varela had changed his voter affiliation like 17 times. It was really like out of control, and you couldn't deny it. You couldn't deny what we were seeing. And that is, when you're in the primaries, everybody's always like, primaries, people are they're devouring each other. It's the primaries. You have candidates who are fighting for the right to represent you. And you need to see all sides of them. You need to know what they've done politically, what their character has been like, who they are, to determine whether or not that's who you want representing you. And so, yeah, the primaries are feisty. Primaries are brutal, and they are supposed to be. But I don't know that I've seen a primary like the one we're seeing in Colorado right now. So Christy Fedora calls me and says 2 weeks ago or so, maybe it's a little longer, says that I don't need to be involved in the assembly process at all. And also, I can just stay out of everything. I'm not a kingmaker. I have no influence in Colorado. We don't need you here. We don't want you here. And so then I was really piqued because I was like, here's me over here just doing my thing. And then all of a sudden, here's Christy Fedora telling me to stay out of Colorado. And I'm like, I am doing other things. Are you for real? I'm dealing with lawsuits in Colorado and having restraining orders against me in Colorado. I hadn't even thought about your state assembly, except how sad. How sad the chaos that's unfolding under Britta Horn. So sad. That's all I was thinking until she randomly called me and said, "Don't participate." And I was like, well, I think that means I should participate. I think that means I should pay attention to what's going on. And I'm glad that I did, because today, guys, today, the RNCC completely undermined all of you. The Republican National Committee, Congressional Committee, rather, undermined all of you. And that is the PAC that is led by Mike Johnson. And under his leadership, your Congress people, Lauren Boebert, Gabe Evans, of course, we would not expect anything less from Jeff Hurd. They all went to support keeping the primaries open. Republicans, I hope you heard that. They all went together to keep the primaries open in the state of Colorado, even though District 4, which is Lauren Boebert's district, is very clearly red. And District 3, the 3rd Congressional District, is clearly red. Everybody points to the election that Lauren almost lost. Lauren almost lost that election because none of us showed up for her. After she said that Dan Rubenstein was doing a great job and the raids on all of our homes was just completely great and they're just doing a wonderful job, we were like, you're on your own. So that's not the same thing. That's even with no support, she still won. She still managed to eke it out. Barely, by the way, barely. But she did eke it out. And that's because the 3rd district is a red district. And what we know right now is whoever is on the primary, whoever wins the primary for both of these districts again, they're going to win the general. So why on earth would you jump on and go against the will of the FCC, the committee, the voting committee for the Republican Party, go against their wish? The majority has said they want to close their primary, but there was a meeting. I understand. And these Congress people decided to say F you to all of you because they think they've got the primary in the bag. So what does it matter? I mean, Jeff Hurd is holding President Trump hostage. And that's crazy right there. That whole thing's just insane. And you've got these guys making deals with Jenna Griswold and the Secretary of State's office to keep your primaries open and just let everybody and anybody participate in your primary. And the mission for the last 3 years with the Republican Party under Dave Williams, and even now, the majority wants to close their own primaries. There's plenty of time, by the way, to close the primaries and be prepared for election day. Plenty of time. And yet, I heard tonight several people saying that they, who are running for chair, several people said, yeah, maybe someday we can close the primary, but we don't need to do it now. We're too late. Yeah, that's called a coward. You're a coward. Those of you who said that tonight during the GOP chair panel, it wasn't a debate panel, you're cowards. You're full of hot air. All you do is you talk, 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 but you're not going to do anything. You're not going to do anything to secure the Republican Party of Colorado. And it's very, very disappointing, but not as disappointing as what your Congress people did today to you. It's unbelievable. And then I also have it, allegedly, rumor has it, and I didn't want anybody else to be on today because I really, sharing this stuff with you guys, I don't want anybody else to be blamed for it. But the last act, apparently. Oh, who are the attorneys? Oh, great question. Who are the attorneys involved today in today's little coup against closing the primary? Well, Chris Murray was there. Scott Gessler was there. So there you go. I just can't. Honestly, my heart is broken and my stomach hurts right now just thinking of the deceit that goes on with these people. And they always know better than you. They always know better than everybody. And you just don't get it. You don't understand. But if you keep following the sinking ship of Colorado and doing open primaries and getting unaffiliated Democrats to vote in your primaries to choose the weakest candidates, who will supposedly draw out the unaffiliated, inspire them somehow, even though they're completely uninspiring, then eventually we'll win back Colorado for Republicans. It makes no sense. It's been tested and tried for the last however many years, and it doesn't work. And here's the one argument I want to debunk right now that always comes up. Well, Sharona, if you hadn't had open primaries, Lauren Boebert would not have won in 2020. That's just a lie. And when I was first told that by Christy Burton Brown, I didn't really know how to answer it because it hadn't occurred to me. I didn't really understand what she was saying. But the reality was there was an inspiring candidate who pledged to be America first, who was, you know, standing up for what we believed in, told Beto, hell no, you're not taking our guns. Like, this was an inspiring candidate who proved they had, some courage at that time. And it inspired people to come out and vote. That is very different from getting just unaffiliated voters to vote. So I just don't. I don't know. I just feel kind of sick about it today. I feel very sad for the people of Colorado. I feel sad that Britta Horn's last act before leaving as the chair was to ensure that, and this is allegedly, we better make sure on this. I think it's being confirmed tonight. I was waiting for an answer on this, but I'll just tell you all, and then you can go check it for yourselves to see what happened. Allegedly, Britta Horn worked it out for herself, petitioned the court to grant a motion that the funds coming into the GOP would go to her lawyer fees first. Yep. It just makes me sick. Makes me sick. So, Colorado, we're praying for you. And we're praying that somehow, some way, God is going to be able to intervene, protect our children, protect your children, and create some way to live in that state where God has been kicked out and where Polis is running rampant with his deviancy, inviting every deviant in the country to live there and be protected, knowing you can sexually assault a child up to 3 times and just have probation. It's shocking. I'm sad about it all. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up tonight. Thank you guys for being with us, and we'll resume our normal Patriot Call next week. But there's just such serious things happening. We'll see you guys back here soon.